All right, everybody, away we go. Welcome to today's call. It is Wednesday, July 10th of 2024, and this is the TRC sponsored Profitable Real Estate Agent Plan, a course that we have been running now for, probably close to a year, where we repeat our 12 key strategies to becoming a profitable real estate agent. These are the exact same strategies I use to run my own personal book of business, that I use to teach my agents, and that, of course, I use to give away for free here, right? Because it's a strategy and you have to learn how to get a strategic approach to business. Roberto, just give me a thumbs up. Let me know that everything is being seen correctly. You're seeing the first slide, yes? And you're hearing me okay, yeah? Good. Good. Okay. Superb. Okay. So let's get rocking here about tonight's subject. We find ourselves in week 10. So a couple more weeks. I think I'm going away at the end of the month. So I'm trying to figure out if I can squeeze the last two in before I go away. And then, of course, we'll take our patented 2-week break and we'll be back at it with a fresh version of this after that. So we'll get a couple tonight and 2 more sessions before we end this round. But tonight lands us on a subject that has been really in the highlight for the last year, and because we have had all these lawsuits happening with the National Association of Realtors in particular, and major companies being sued. And then if everything gets agreed to, there are a lot of certain things that are going to get passed by for small brokerages like mine, which will be interesting and good. But having said that, I don't think it's ever a bad thing for a business to get challenged, because it questions the way that the business works. And is that the best way? I happen to think there's nothing wrong with the business. I think that it was much ado about nothing. Some savvy attorneys saw an opportunity with a model that was weak in the way that it explained itself to the consumers. And it always seems to be that way. I've been around this business long enough where I can remember where buyers weren't protected early on. I grew up in a business where something was called a sub-agent of the seller. So every single person that went in there to represent a buyer was actually working as a sub-agent of the seller, which was absurd. So I think the National Association and its rules and regulations have always been a little bit behind. And I think what happened in this case is the sense of forcing somebody to offer compensation to a buyer's agent. It's always been negotiable, but there was a sense that you were being forced to do that. And so I think that made us vulnerable. Now, I think what you'll see is the Wild West. I think there will be a lot of offers of compensation that are now not more standardized, which makes them feel like there's collusion. When you see a lot of, say, 2.5 apples or 3 apples being offered, or 2 apples being offered, meaning percentage to the buyer agency, and you see that consistently, it does smack of collusion, because in a true sense of competitive environment, you might see them all over the place. You might see 0.75, 1.7, right? You might see a variance. So I understand that. But again, in the same breath, I think water finds its mark, per se. In other words, there is a value to attracting buyer agents to your listing. And I think one of the delusions about all this is that somehow miraculously someone's not going to have to pay a buyer's agent. And I've just been very aggressively explaining that to people that said, look, the only thing that's going to change is where am I going to offer compensation? But if you're asking me whether or not I want you to offer buyer agency compensation, the answer is an astounding and resounding absolutely yes, right? I'm going to jump up and down and say, because you don't understand how the business works. If you look at any of the statistics, it's about 89% of the time, 88% of the time, at least in my marketplace, where it's one brokerage and another brokerage that do a deal together. And that's the majority of the time. So think about it. If you're going out there to make a market with somebody, most of the time, in the far majority, you're dealing with another broker from another company. Even if you're at a big company, it's not necessarily a broker from your company. It's just the phenomenon of the way the business works. So why would you want to, if you're the seller, not have your agent representing you talk to you about compensation and offering that to a buyer's agent and attracting those buyer agents in? And so I think the people that are foolish and not educated. Really, foolishness usually comes from lack of education. But I think the foolishness in saying, oh, we won't offer compensation, well, good luck with that. Unless you're in a white hot seller's market, nobody's going to come to your listing if there's no offer of compensation. Or if they do, they might even be asking for way more than you would have offered. And now you're in a tough spot because it's not a seller's market. So it could create some serious chaos. So when you're a listing agent, one of the things you really want to lean in on this conversation is just stay focused on your net. But as a market maker, I'm telling you, sure, I'm going to run my open house system galore. Yes, we're very good at picking up our up calls and making sure we show the property. But the majority of the time, we have to deal with another broker, and we're not going to not offer them compensation. And we have to get paid what we get paid to do what we do. So let's put it on the table. Let's put it in a net sheet, and let's stay focused on the net and see if that's a reasonable number. And I think the more transparently you have that conversation, the less collusive it is, right? Because it's not that way. It's just smart business to attract people, and you can attract buyers agents with monetary compensation, whereas you can't really do that legally with buyers. So we get in this whole weird place where, okay, you want to attack the model, but now you might create more chaos, and it does not benefit the consumer without a full explanation of how the business works, okay? So that's just my little preamble to how this is all working for me in the field. But tonight I want to talk about protecting these buyers, okay? So developing an answer to the question, are you protecting your buyers, is essential. So we are going to use this worksheet tonight to understand how to get and keep and sell more buyers. Now, of course, if this is the first time you're watching a recording here, or you're wondering where this stuff is, you can go to the Profitable Real Estate Agent Plan that is over on Facebook. It's a private group there where we have all the fill in the blank files that go with this that I will talk about tonight. So you can download a file there. I always pin the most recent one up to the top like I did tonight. So you can download it and you can watch this video and fill in the blanks, right? Now, we had a little trouble recording these to Facebook because Facebook didn't want to play nice anymore and let us easily use Zoom and record it to Facebook. So instead, what I'm doing is I'm recording live to the Realty Classrooms YouTube channel. Okay, I'll get better at that because it was a little sloppy the first couple of weeks, but all of these recordings will now be on the YouTube channel, and that's how I'm going to shift. I'm going to shift over that way, right? So I'll still use Facebook to put the files up there, whatnot, because it's easier for that. But definitely going to record to YouTube so you can get all recordings from the Realty Classroom over on YouTube. And of course, if you go over there and like and subscribe, that good old algorithm will keep you in line with when we do something. Okay. And of course, we'll probably do some more. They have a lot of good ideas going forward for YouTube, probably more towards the end of the year. But, starting to think about it's probably going to be time to do a little interior podcast of all the people I coach or are Griffin agents and try to extract their stories for you. So hopefully you see yourself in them and you can relate to them. Okay, so let's get her going tonight. So how do you introduce yourself professionally to buyers? Now, we talked about this last week with sellers too. Now, so if I'm talking about protecting buyers, why am I going all the way to the very beginning? Because the way that you introduce yourself to buyers begins to set up this protective relationship of trust between the two of you. And this has literally, and I say this to my coaching members, so I coach anywhere between 30 and 35 top producers at one point in time, and there's not one of them that comes to me that I don't say, listen to me closely. When I tell you I developed a package of information for buyers and sellers, and I start every relationship off by gifting them that. That's how I professionally set myself apart from everybody else. And that's how I begin to protect myself even before they are ever anything more than a lead turning to a very light prospect, meaning they have discussed with me why they want to buy and how motivated they are to do so inside the next year. So it is really how I start with them that changed the way I do things, right? So the best beginning to a relationship with a buyer, same thing we talked about last week with a seller, is to give away your best what to do information for free. Now you can go back to, I believe it's week 3, and you can look for the fill in the blank sheet on week 3. I don't have that up on YouTube yet because I only started doing the YouTube stuff last month. So next round we'll have everything on YouTube. But the point being is that what you'll do is you'll go back and look into what a unique selling proposition really is. I give a base definition of there. And then I'm very specific and clear, and I actually share visually what I did to create this unique selling proposition package of information. And that's how I learned how to give away my best what to do information for free in the form of an information product. And I think that's really, really important for me to state that this is in the form of an information product. Okay. Because I think a lot of people start to think, well, what do you mean by that? I mean, how do you give away your best what to do information for free? And again, as just a little precursor as to what I did, or precursor look back as to what I did. When I was figuring out a unique selling proposition, imagining myself introducing myself to a buyer, especially for me at an open house, it doesn't matter how, but I love me an open house buyer. And I have since the beginning of my career, 25 years ago. So I just had to think about what would I give them for free? And so if you go to an extreme level of giving away your best information for free, it would actually be in the form of actually helping them buy a house and not charging a commission if you want to go to the extreme. So when you're developing this concept of unique selling proposition, that's the idea. You extend it to really an unreasonable place to make the point to yourself, which is, I would take you around. I would show you what representation means by showing you really, first of all, let's get your money in line so you can make sure you understand, even if you're cash, how much do you really want to spend of your cash? Make a real decision. Or if you're getting financed, how much can you really afford, and get really pre-approved, have them vet you by really looking at all your financials, right? Then we match that up with what's sold so you can see what the money's buying. Then we go out and tour some of your favorites so we can see the difference between what you saw online that the money bought and what they really look like. So we're going back and forth between solds and what you see. And so you can really refine what you're looking at, which is going to lead you into a spot where you feel comfortable now making an offer and getting into a negotiation based on math that I will give you to show you how I value a property. Even if I'm representing the buyer, I can do it from a seller's perspective and make sure they've done it correctly. And then we close with care. So those are the things that I would give away, and I would keep us structured in that order. So if I took you through all of that and I got to the house and I got my commission, I gave the whole thing to you, that would be everything for free. It would be not only the information that's inside the plan, it would be the actual service and the analysis and the insight. All of that stuff would be for free. Well, of course, that's not a reasonable business model, right? It's not reasonable. So what I did was I took away and I said, okay, we'll just take away the insightful stuff that I would do in the field, but we can still give them the information. So that left me with the plan, pictures and details of properties that sold in the price range so they can see what the money's really buying, because I would be telling them that, and an answer to how's the market. So again, it mimics the seller package, pictures and details of properties that sold, a one-page statistical market update showing things like days on market, up or down, median and average price, up or down. So educational information, strip it out and give it to them. But then you ask, okay, well, what are the benefits of giving all this to the buyers? Well, when you, and I point to you, when you give away your best information for free, you do something different than everybody else. You empower the buyer and you open up what I say is a competitionless lane. And I want you to indulge me for a second and really think about that, what that really means. It means that I don't want you to be one of the everybody's. I want you to be one of the only ones, right? Not the every ones, the only ones. And what that means is, if you think about a bunch of agents sitting in open houses on a Saturday, and you think that you're there competing with those people, hoping like they are, that either somebody comes in and directly buys the house and you have the easy day, or they come in and they don't have an agent, but they need your help. And so you have to wonder, like, what is your competition doing? Well, most of them are taking. And they're not even meaning to take. There's a lot of good people that are sitting there. They're not meaning to take something, but they see, oh, you're not working with an agent? Well, I can help you. That's taking. Before you give, of course, you have to take at some point in time by asking, may I help you? May I be the one that sends you property updates? May I be the one that shows you some properties? May I be the one that helps you get pre-qualified? And on it goes inside the buyer plan. But instead, what if you just gave away all of that information for free first? Hey, thank you guys so much for coming to the open house. And it does sound like you're a little bit early in the process, but I thought, what might make it easier for you is this package of information that I prepared before the open house. Now, what it does is it shows you pictures and details of properties that sold in this price range. You're in this open house. This open house is worth $2.2 million. Here's a bunch of properties that sold a little above and a little below that. Okay. So that'll show you everything that the money's buying, because this is just an asking price that's a sold, and has pictures and details. I also gave you a one-page market update of exactly what's happening in the general market. And then there's a 6-step plan in here for how to buy a house properly, all the things you consider, right? From representation to pre-qualification to looking at the features that the money buys, to how to tour properly, how to negotiate properly, and how to close properly. Here, it's all for you. And I'm not asking for anything in return. I'm giving it to them. And in that moment in time, I'm transferring knowledge to them, which empowers them. Think about just like that in any school. When you teach a child mathematics, you're empowering them someday to be able to count change at a restaurant. You're empowering them in their future. Not necessarily everything obvious to them in that moment, but that educational approach empowers them. And when I say you open up a competitionless lane, I can guarantee you that nobody's doing this. Guarantee you. Maybe they come close, but it's so lost on people when I coach them at first, but especially my competitors. I've given away some of my planned stuff to my competitors who I like, that are friends, and they'll go, never to understand it. It takes me hours and hours and hours to train top producers' brains to understand this, let alone just the everyday real estate agent. So I am telling you, it opens up for me a competitionless lane. And I can't tell you how many times I have gotten inbound requests for me to become their buyer agent because I did this in the house, right? I mean, hey, are you taking on buyer clients? I can think of 2 women that did that, and one bought a $3.2 million waterfront property. Another one bought a $2.5 million condo. So I'm telling you, just 2 of the packages I can remember off the top of my head were worth nearly $6 million in sales. So, and they were inbound to me. I'm just thinking of people that inbounded asking if I could, if I would work with them, asking me. Duh. Of course I would. Wonderful, right? But it all happened because I started this way. So you worry about protecting the buyers, but you have a bigger need to protect your buyers from getting stolen by somebody else if you don't start off by giving. And if you start off by taking, then you are like everybody else, because then it's just this rush to take from them and try to grab them and pull them into the field. And it's just, in my experience, both as a coach and a doer of the thing, it just doesn't work that well, right? So how do you set yourself up for a buyer acquisition process? Let's go a little bit deeper into this, right? Well, it's best to chunk up your steps and educate the buyer that you'll be following that exact plan, that process, and reviewing with them along the way. So this gets a little bit more into the presentation side of it. Now, of course, if you are still in the state of doing a formal presentation, and you may find yourself doing that depending on what marketplace you're in here, as there becomes a greater need for us to maybe have buyer-client contracts signed. I already know it's mandatory pretty soon, at least in Seattle, where we have an office, and our team in Seattle is out there. So they're going to have to really understand this. And so when we talk about chunking it up, we have reduced our buyer plan to, it's all written out in multiple pages, but we've also reduced it to an infographic. So we chunk up those key points we're talking about. And you can hear me reference them at the top of my head. Representation starts with getting you the money, in order, whether it's pre-qualification or getting you with your bank. Then we match what you want to spend or what you've been pre-qualified up with what's sold. Even those are gone. We can start to get a feeling, would you have purchased this? Why? Because now we can go out and tour looking for something that's similar, which leads us to a negotiation stage where we make an offer on our favorite, and then we close with care, right? So we're going through this process of really trying to help that buyer through it, but we want them to see the whole process holistically. They don't have to know all of the details. That's our job, to be the person who's in charge of the details. So we chunk it up and we explain it to them. And what that does is, again, it empowers them to know that you're not making it up on them. That you're not just going, oh, I saw one here or I saw one there. No, you're taking them through a process. Now, of course, in the touring stage, we have a high-end seller who's looking to downsize a little bit. So we're probably a 2.5 sale into a 1.7 purchase. It's a big deal. So we're in that touring phase. And I have to really like say, hey, listen, we're in the touring phase on the buy side, right? So I don't want you running by houses that you think you might not like. Let me do that touring. You don't have to come out here because I want to keep this fun. I could have told you there was 3 crack shacks around this place. You would have never bought it, even though the house is new. So let me save you those steps. And if I go out and scout it and you still want to see it, wonderful. But let me do that phase that way for you to save you time. So you can see, I know where I'm at in that process with somebody, and I know what me and my team need to do. So Kathy talks to her, tees something up. Now we've reduced it down because the touring helps her go back online and refine with Kathy in my team, the telemarketer who's handling this account. She goes back and refines what properties to see. And now we've gone to condos, and we're going to see a luxury condo that's by the beach. These things are beautiful and they're young. And so you see that refinement process happening, but she knows where she's at in it. And she understands the whole sell side process because I've been to her house. I've explained the 7 steps. So she sees these 13 steps. And she, by the way, is a very, very savvy real estate developer. Her family's wildly successful in Boston, but she's not a residential gal on her own. So she's really appreciating all of this guidance, right? So we chunk it up and we keep reviewing with them where we're at and the best way to do it. And I just gave you a real live example. So the next question is, how detailed and organized is your onboarding process? So after you explain how you work on the buy side, you establish a transparent checklisted process for onboarding a buyer, and including them in the process is critical because people will support what they help create. Now, again, your checklist is as simple as telling them, listen, have you decided like how much money you want to spend? Do you need to sell your house to buy this next one, right? So we're going to have to deal with all that because we're going to need to be ready to go on the sale of your house. So if so, we want to get the photographer out there now, even before you sign this. So we're ready to turn the switch on when you're ready. Well, those are transparent checklisted processes for having the buyer understand this so they don't go in there raw and you don't go in raw. You don't want to be out showing a buyer all of these properties and all of a sudden be caught off guard that you're not ready to get them home on this, whether it's, the financing is not ready or whatever it might be. So again, your checklist is simply the microeconomics of what's inside the major stages. And that's what it means to be customizing our plan for somebody, right? So how do you define caring for that buyer? Well, it's crucial to maintain your authority over this process. Like I said, okay, I told the buyer that she shouldn't be running around, and she was stuck in traffic for like 40 minutes. The Cape Cod is it's crazy during the summer with traffic. So you have to be careful when you send somebody out. I just didn't want her stressed. She got her little dog with her and everything. I didn't want her stressed, right? And she's very respectful and she goes through the process and she's very analytical in the house. But I told her, you don't have to do that. I'm telling you the way that this would be. I'll go and do this so you could get the right property at the best price. This is not the right property at the best price. I could have told you that with a drive-by. But especially later on when it comes to negotiating the price and terms, I want her to pick one of her favorites, and we will do a quick analysis on that and show her if we were listing it, this is what we would have seen from math. So is there room in the price? Well, let's look at the math together. And again, she already knows how this works because I've done it on her house. So, and then you get into this part about buyers, because as you're going through this process, remember, later in this course at the very end, we're trying to birth these people into what we call happy griffins, in my case, meaning happy past clients. So when we really start to get into the closing process, where we've moved this buyer along from client to closing, right? And I'll get into that next week when we get into the closing process. But you're establishing a transparent checklist process for closing a buy-side transaction. And you're including the seller in that process, is critical because happy buyers are more likely to repeat and refer. And again, this is sort of like walking up to the edge of the bridge. And I'm saying all the way back here, gang, remember, we give them the plan. We express the plan. We chunk it up and educate them. and we show them exactly how it's going to be like to work with us. During working with us, we are adjusting, we're being authoritative, and all of that to get them under agreement after they've negotiated something, because we show them the analysis. And then what we do is we babysit that closing, because imagine the stress that everybody has. Another buyer actually that's under agreement with a home sale contingency that's been accepted, and we go live this weekend with their house. So again, it's all this orchestration of protecting the knowledge and having them understand, hey, here's what could happen, here's what could go wrong. So that's all the stuff that we're doing. So we're really trying to make sure that they feel we are authoritatively in control, following a system, and that leads into that closing checklist, which we'll talk about next week, right? So you start your buying process by educating your buyer rather than trying to take the business. That is everything in this process with buyers. Okay. All right. So there you have it. That is my, let me stop sharing my screen. So that is my, my presentation for that piece of it. So we know where we are at there, but let us go to some Q&A now. Hang on one second. I'm going to have to remove that. Okay, cool. So questions about this buying process tonight. I know we have all my ringers in here, but questions about this, thoughts about this. And you can ask me anything, but I mean, if it has to do with buyers and open houses and whatnot, I know that I encouraged Sean last night. He was headed out to an open house. I was excited about that. So a lot of this for me goes down at that open house level. So I can answer questions about that or anything that got brought up here tonight. Okay. Yep. Alexis, and then I think Roberto, you were next. Was that you? Yeah. Okay. Alexis, then Roberto. Go ahead, Alexis. You will be able to go to YouTube now. So this is, yeah, YouTube. Yes, correct. That's okay. So because Facebook doesn't play nice, and it's just easier for me to figure out YouTube. Plus, I wanted to give this away, this course, for free anyway. It's better on YouTube because it's exposed to more people. So the YouTube channel, Alexis, I will show you. Yeah, hang on. I'm going to do that right now. So yeah, I'm going to show it on the screen too for those people that may not. Um, all of them. See it right there? Yep. Can you see that channel right there? Okay. And I will also copy that and I will put it in the chat on Zoom too, so that we have it there as well. Yeah, you're welcome. It's just been a little tricky getting Facebook, and I just got sick of it. I'm like, yeah, it's time to move to YouTube. So it is in the chat too for the Zoomers. Anybody that's in on the Zoom, that YouTube channel is there. So obviously you want to subscribe to it and like the video, because then it'll start to just, send it to you. And plus you'll get notifications when it goes live. Okay. Yeah, you're welcome. Cool. Okay. Let's see. Next. Okay. So when I go by the drive-bys, for my buyers, is that what you're asking me? Okay. So are you asking me how do I make a decision what I think is good for them? No, yeah, I mean, listen, it depends on the relationship. I mean, if Laura, the client care manager, or Kathy, who's now working, helping me coordinate some stuff too, if those two are in relationship with these people, they're going to be doing a lot of talking about what that person likes, and they'll do some eliminations there. And the buyer may be more aggressive, somebody who's going to do her drive-bys. This particular client's a little bit older, and I felt like it was a lot for her to go there. And I know what she wants, so she's just sort of picking things randomly off, the property, and they're all over the place. I'm like, wait a minute, you live in Osterville. I don't see you moving to, East Falmouth. So that would have been a no-brainer for me to say, let me drive by it first. So I think it's it's case by case. It's not, I know where you're driving with me because since I coach you, I get your brain thinking formulaic all the time. It's not necessarily is exacting as that because now it's customizing it for each client, right? Each client's different. Some are very aggressively driving by stuff. We have a gal in Boston, Laura and her are watching. It's very rare that something like that she likes comes up. So I would zip out there before her if it came on just to say, "Yep, let's go. Let's go." So that's one where I'm super aggressive. You called me because it's a $2 million buyer and it's sort of a light relationship. We finally got out to see one property. We locked in on the relationship there. But, I don't trust that one. I need to be out in front of her to really be procuringly, valuable to her. She appreciates me, don't get me wrong, but I want to be way out in front of that where other people are just sort of blindly deferring to me, right? So it really is individualized. Good question, though. Good question. So take person by person and just read the room, right? But you got to protect them all. Even if you have a buyer client contract and we start to get into that, I'm just going to say it's the proactivity. You know how I am when I talk to you all in the coaching group. It's the proactive treatment of these people. Believe me, I am on my team going, what about this one? Am I doing drive-bys for her? And the listings, they've got the packages out. Okay, what are my drive-bys this week? You got some yeses to sending out the USP package to people. What am I driving by? Okay, this is a good one. Okay, that's not. All right, right. And we start to go through all that stuff. So, yeah. So it's the word proactive, especially on the buy side. You fall asleep on a buyer. See, a lot of people will complain, oh, they cheated on me. No, they didn't. You just didn't work hard enough, right? You weren't out in front of it adding enough value. And so they didn't know any better. One, you didn't start off by educating them how you were going to work with them in a process, what value you were bringing. So they will treat you the way that you allow them to treat you or the way that you set them up, right? So if they only see you as somebody sending emails, you're dead. They're going with somebody else, right? You're dead. Now, if you've shown them a few properties, there's a little bit more loyalty, but now you're not really right on top of it. And something comes up and they panic buy, right? Because some realtor says, oh, well, you got to buy it from me if you want to be in a chance. And there's a lot of that sleaze out there or desperation. So now that lack of proactivity really can make you lose a lot of money. So you've got to, that's why, Roberta, we have the contact pipeline manager spreadsheet separate from any database people use to remind you what you're supposed to be doing to babysit your buyers, right? Very important. So proactive with the buyers is everything. But of course, if you start off better, you're locking in that loyalty. And if you are going to start to sign buyer client contracts, you have to educate them first to show them your value before you ask for them to sign this thing, right? And I did that for years, so it's not going to be anything new to me, but that's how it works. Yeah. Good. Bravo. Okay. What do we have next here? Who's got another question for me? That it? Guys gonna let me off the hook tonight? Okay, if you came in late tonight, we talked about protecting buyers, okay? And the whole idea was how you start with them is how you end up protecting yourself from losing them to somebody, right? Even if you have a buyer client contract, don't sleep on a buyer because you get them signed something. I remember we got in that mode for a while at my office when we were getting buyers. I built a whole building with my office to be able to give mostly buyer presentations because, of course, with the listing, you're in the house. But there was a secretarial table out front where they would be greeted. They would sit down and they would be moved into one of these two meeting rooms where they would sit across. They would be placed across the table. Agent would come in and we'd give a presentation. We would sign them. It was unbelievably efficient. Okay. Really, really good. We signed buyer client contracts all the time. The problem was we collected buyer client contracts, right? We didn't necessarily always push and improve for the proactivity. And that's me talking. So you can imagine everybody else because we were having regular meetings about how to do this. But systematically speaking, in a day and age like this, I'll give you a little pro tip on how we deal with this too. When we have prospected a buyer, meaning we have really found out they have a real reason why they want to buy, in 6 months or less, preferably, but 12 months maximum, they have a motivation of a 9 to 10 to do so. So once we know that that is avatar or ideal client, they have received this package of information, which is the base plan, the 6 steps, but also a starter package of product that has sold in their price range that they prefer to buy, and a one-page market update for that current moment. So that's the starting point. And everybody gets a physical package in the beginning. Nobody gets digital from us alone. They get physical. That's an evolution from them, our olden days, where I didn't do that and I didn't teach that, right? Because we were all going into this digital age where we were just so thrilled. Oh, you can automatically send things from MLS that will arrive in their inbox. And everybody started to get lazy. And the thing that's amazing to me, it's conditioned the agency world to be lazy and just email stuff. And then you hear these complaints. Oh, that person cheated on me. They suck. No, you suck, right? I suck. We suck. We stopped being proactive. So when I revamped the way I did things, I went back to the physical package to begin with, then a digital update. But we have to call them to make sure the digital updates are arriving in their inbox and they're seeing them and they're consuming them. And once we do that, then we can add insight. But then we realized, you know what made us unique and put us in that competitionless lane was the fact that we gave something physical to begin with. So why do we stop that? So we went back to saying every 30 days, if we haven't put that buyer under agreement, and this is for sellers too, but tonight's a buyer night, we're going to remail them the dynamic pieces of what we gave them. So in other words, we don't have to send you the evergreen 6-step plan. You have it, you get it. But what we do and should do is look at 5 or 6 more properties that sold in the price range within which you want to buy, so you can see the trends of what buyers are getting for that kind of money you want to spend. And it can get you excited about, okay, well, I never would have paid that for this. Okay, good. Well, what about this? Yep, I would have bought that. Okay, let's keep looking for something like that. So we always give a buyer package update to these people in the mail as well, because we want to keep it physical. Because what you're doing by doing physical work is you're giving a true physical gift of not only your time, but your insight to procure this. And I always say this, you're like a museum curator. You're going in to the MLS, you are curating the things that you think they would like to see are most relevant to their situation. You're organizing them in order, right? And then you're productizing them. That's a lot of work. And so when that arrives at somebody's house for their benefit and their convenience, you are rewarded through the law of reciprocity. They want to reward you, hopefully most of the time, with loyalty or more trust, right? All those things are a benefit of that kind of proactive approach. So, Roberto, I wished back then we had that digital relationship plus physical. I would have done that, the same. And of course, seller prospects are getting that absolutely. And then what it allows you to do is pick up the phone and not say, "Are you ready yet? Are you ready yet? Are you ready yet?" You pick up the phone, you say, "Did you get the most recent updated information?" It's interesting to see. It looks like there's more inventory because these buyers are getting better deals than the ones I sent you last month. That's an example of insight that might come from a conversation, right? But when they have it physically, they can say, "Oh, I didn't see it." So the most of the time that you end up in the spam file, especially if there are attachments of properties, it's not going to happen that way when it comes in the mailbox. And if you're conditioning them to understand, hey, we mailed you out the latest stuff so you can consume it, people still like to consume in a kinesthetic or physical way, not just digital. And everybody presumes, oh, well, they can do that themselves. Good. You keep saying that. Well, I do it my way. I will be the guy that takes somebody away from you. No, I don't mean in an aggressive way. I just mean that I won't even know that you're there as an agent because they won't reference you, because they won't have seen value. They might have stumbled into you, but all of a sudden when they run into somebody like us, it's like, wow, by comparison, nobody did this for me. We hear that actually a lot on the sell side. Why didn't my agent do this for me? I can't speak to that, right? So that's why I'm saying it's because you really end up in that competition way of doing this, right? So good. All right, other questions? I'm open to questions or I'll wrap it for the night. Yeah. Hmm.
data available.
Hmm.
And that when it says active or pending, that it is the truest data available. And that whatever frequency they want to receive those searches on, whether it's daily or twice weekly or whatever, you're not just going to send it to them because you realize that they're as busy as you are as everybody, and they might miss the email.
Hmm.
So you're going to be sending yourself the same email
Bravo.
that you're sending them.
Hmm.
You're going to be looking at it, and because you've taken them out a couple times, you know what they want.
Correct.
You're going to be looking through those emails to make sure that in case they miss that email, you're going to call them. You're going to say, "Hey, Amy, I don't know if you had a chance. I know you're really busy. I saw one that I think you really might like. And
Yeah.
if you left them a voicemail, Amy, then you text them, and you hit them 3 or 4 times in different ways. So you're on top of it. So you're adding 2 or 3 times the layers of freaking value.
Totally.
And that's way better than effing Redfin or Zillow or any of that nonsense.
100%. And that's you said it, you killed it at the end there. That's exactly right, Paul. Everybody thinks, oh, Redfin or Zillow or this. They are not human beings. And if you want to go one level higher, you go out and you do your drive-by, right? You go drive by it. And now you
Well, that's what I was telling her.
yeah.
The buyer that she's showing, you've been to my house, you've been to my office.
Yep.
They're right, and she lives real close to me. They're looking right in this neighborhood,
Yep.
all around here. And she has to go to North Carolina for a couple weeks. So I said, look, Danny and I wrote a schedule years ago about how other agents can cover for you in our group, and it doesn't cost you a fortune. But I said, look, I'm your broker. I said, I'll take care of you. If you need somebody last minute, I said, we live in the same neighborhood, no big deal.
Right.
I said, I can do that for you too, for nothing. And but my point being that like these, if she has a buyer that's looking in her own neighborhood, I mean, who cares?
Right.
30 minutes out of your time. She's showing them 3 or 4 or 5 houses a weekend. I said, yeah, that'll take you 2.5 hours a weekend. That sucks kind of because you're getting them in and out of the house. But I mean, for you to drive by, you could stay in your damn car and zip by all 5 of them in half an hour.
Well, on the sell side, when I'm doing the drive-bys, because the packages have gone out and I want the telemarketers to say, oh, he drove by it.
Oh yeah.
I do it from the car. I just pull up.
Oh yeah, I'm not going in the house. Yeah, no way.
I pull up in front of it. I roll down the window. I take a quick vertical of it, right? If I can get a horizontal.
Exactly.
I text.
And you drove by the freaking property. Exactly.
Off I go. And I'll say,
exactly.
I said to Pamela, I said, Pamela, this is not this is not the street I thought it was. This is a better street. This is in the Back Bay of Boston. Stay on this one. This is really, really, really good.
It's just like today. There's a total little pivot of a topic, but it lends itself well to this conversation, and it's good for Sky and Andre here. They're brand new. They're not even licensed yet. This morning, I put on Facebook, so they might have seen this already. 8 o'clock or whatever the hell. I get a call. One of these agents can't get in my listing because for some reason I had the stupid key box programmed till 9. And I'm like, I wasn't even like up. And I'm like, I'll be there in like 15 minutes.
Yep.
And I go down there and I thought, well, why don't I make the most of this? Snap a picture of me being there at like 8:00, whatever the hell it was. Throw it on social media so my clients see it, right?
Yeah.
And so then other people see it, so you're just showing that you're willing to go the extra mile. And did it really bother me? No. My parents lived 5 minutes away. I went and had coffee with them.
Sure.
And it, big deal. But my point being, like you said, personal service, add the extra touch, blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
You know, it doesn't take that much time, but people don't do that shit anymore. They just send these stupid ass emails and they've freaking lost the point that you cannot hide behind these stupid texts and these stupid emails.
Right.
Because that's what everybody else does.
Well,
And that's why
listen,
they can't differentiate
texting an
themselves.
email has its place to support your physical work. And we're in, listen.
How about in your area? Do you have members only where it coming soon, where it doesn't syndicate out to other media? Do you
We're not
have that?
allowed. Unfortunately, on our MLS, Gail, Sonia
Yeah.
was telling me that you guys can do those coming soon. We're not allowed to do those. I got to be real careful on my MLS when I do those
Yeah.
little cute things about like, oh, we're working on this one. I got to
Yeah,
be
I
real
know.
careful. I can't put an address or anything.
No, you can't. I understand that. What I'm saying is that we have on the MLS where it's members only, so it doesn't go, so you've listed the property, but members only, meaning only real estate agents can see it. But I don't know if you have that.
I don't know. Maybe I should look into it. I could, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I think you probably do. It's called clear cooperation, what you're saying, which makes no sense, where you can say coming soon, you can't put the address, all that.
Yeah.
What they're doing is trying to so that you don't do pocket listings. But the point is I
Exactly.
think you guys have the same thing. Do you, Danny, coming soon? New
No.
members only?
No.
Okay.
No.
I'll look into it. I don't know, Gail, to be honest. That's
Yeah,
a good.
yeah. Anyway, I'll let that topic go.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, that would be another add-on.
Yeah. Thank you. No, that's great. That's
For sure.
brilliant.
Yeah. Cool.
Absolutely.
Good.
Absolutely.
All right. What else?
Yes, I am brilliant. Thank you.
We know that though. we always give you like where would we be without you, right? So
I love you guys.
yeah, we love you. Yep. All right, guys and gals. I appreciate your attention here tonight. I love doing this call. It's really good. Like I said, let me just reiterate. Because of the changes at Facebook, I have decided to broadcast these through StreamYard over to YouTube. So if you want to catch the replays, they will be over there. I will start to organize them. I don't know if you can see them in plain sight. So I'm stumbling forward, but I promise you in the next round of this, everything will be hyper organized. So they are in a playlist on YouTube. Yeah, go ahead, Paul. You want to ask me something?
Are we getting any closer to getting the immediate replay so I can send them to my team?
This is done on YouTube right now.
No, I know, but just links that we can send on email to the guys and gals, you know.
Yeah, for this course on YouTube.
Okay.
The other one, yes. Yeah. So and
I mean the buyer and seller call and the telemarketing training and
the you and I had agreed for Paul's referring to the interior coaching program. So if you just remind me tomorrow, I'll post the link. Friday. I'll post the link right in the chat from the previous week. Yep. I'll do it each call and I'll get in a rhythm of doing that. Hey, here's last week's call. Here's the link. Yep. We'll just do it each week. So it'll be a week delayed, but it'll be right there. I think that's the best method.
Cool.
Okay.
That'd be great, Danny, if you could do that.
Yep.
That'd be wonderful.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get, on top of the best way to do it because the recordings were getting buried and stuff. So let's just do it live. That'll be the easiest way.
That'd be great. Yeah, just because some of these guys they work in that morning hour, and I know
it's
that
ideal.
they'll commit to watching it that weekend.
Yep.
If it's new enough, if it's 3 weeks old, they're not going to watch it. But if it's
just
a week before, they'll watch
It'll
it.
be from the previous week. Yep. Let's start Friday. Just Alexis, Paul, remind me. Okay.
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 All right, gang. Have a good night. We'll see everybody next week in the Profitable Agent Plan here. See the rest of you tomorrow and Friday. See ya.
See you
Night,
tomorrow
Dan.
morning.
Bye.
Later. Bye.